In the middle of Edinburgh rears the imposing edifice of Arthur's Seat, an extinct volcano that dominates the skyline of the city. Its ancient slopes are home to all kinds of strangeness and secrets. But what's to be found lurking beneath this miniature mountain, deep in the bowels of the earth? Well, one thing that you'll find down there is a wicked long tunnel. The Innocent Railway Tunnel, in fact, which is notable in the modern day for not actually having a railway in it. Despite the absence of train tracks, this tunnel still has a lot going for it. It's incredibly long, beautifully decorated, rather spooky, and also one of the better parts of Edinburgh's extensive cycle network. In addition to all that though, it's got quite the fascinating history. The tunnel was opened in 1831, nearly 200 years ago now, for one very simple reason: coal. In the 1800s, people used a lot of coal. It was a staple for heating, cooking, industry, and also as a gift for naughty children. The people of Edinburgh burned so much coal, in fact, that there was pretty much a permanent pall of coal-black smoke lingering over the city. Side note, this is how Edinburgh got the affectionate nickname Auld Reekie, which sounds like it's about how bad Edinburgh smells, but is actually about how smoky it was. Reekie, you see, can be translated as smoky rather than smelly. Anywho, the coal had to come from somewhere. A lot of it was floated in from afar via the Union Canal, but there was plenty of coal to be had close to home in Midlothian. It just had to be dragged there by horses, which wasn't exactly cost effective, and was also extremely tiring for the horses. What was needed was a railway to link the coal mines near Dalkeith to the coal-hungry people of Edinburgh. And so a railway line was built, complete with a 518-metre-long tunnel directly under Arthur's Seat. Boring this massive tunnel through solid bedrock was actually cheaper than knocking down half the city, and besides, the engineer in charge, one James Jardine, absolutely loved a good tunnel. After several years of hard work, the job was done. The tunnel was bored, the rails were laid, and those hard-working coal horses could finally retire and get some well-earned rest. Except, no, they couldn't. The Innocent Railway was, for the most part, to be a horse-drawn railway. Only the last bit through the tunnel relied on steam engines since the grade was a bit too steep for horses to manage. For the rest of the route, the wagons full of coal would be hauled along by our four-legged friends. Steam engines were totally a thing at this point in time, but they were pretty new technology, and people generally didn't trust them. In fact, they thought of steam engines as so diabolical and untrustworthy that a horse-drawn railway seemed rather innocent by comparison, which in fact is why the Innocent Railway is called the Innocent Railway. Another side note, some people argue that the Innocent Railway got that name because nobody died during its construction, making it pristine and innocent. But that's not true. In the 1800s, getting a cold or a nosebleed or a tiny little bonk on the head was fatal, and so it would take an absolute miracle for nobody to cark it during the construction of an actual railway line. And there was no miracle here. A few people did bite the bullet during the construction of the tunnel. The end result, however, was totally worth it, according to everyone except the family of those who died. Now, horses could quickly transport coal from the local coal mines to Edinburgh and compete with the cheap coal that was barged in on the Union Canal. The tunnel was also a pretty impressive achievement. When people carriages were added a year or two after its opening, people were falling over themselves to hop on board. They didn't have roller coasters back then, so rocketing along through a tunnel on the back of an unreliable metal engine was probably pretty thrilling. And even if that wasn't your cup of tea, a jaunt on the railway really opened up the countryside to the people of Auld Reekie. So popular was the railway, in fact, that further branches were added, including a line running all the way up to Leith. At its height, it transported 40,000 people in a month, along with around 200 wagons a day of coal, enough to keep Edinburgh thoroughly concealed in its trademark smog. Of course, it couldn't last. As steam trains became ever more popular, new lines were laid. Soon enough, the Innocent Railway was sold on to North British Railways and added to their network. The narrow gauge tracks were ripped up and replaced with normal gauge tracks. allowing any locomotives to run on the route. Before long, though, other routes into Edinburgh took precedence, and the Innocent Railway was mostly retired. After several decades of abandonment, it became a cycle route in the 1980s and remains so to this day. Now the extra-long Innocent Railway Tunnel is a bit forgotten. Thousands of people visit Arthur's Seat each day, but the vast majority don't know about the engineering miracle lurking beneath their feet. Which is a shame, because it's actually rather cool. It's deceptively long, eerie and echoey, and the entrance is so tucked away that it feels kind of like a secret level. Go take a look the next time you're visiting the seat, and while you're there, be sure to check out the Echo, 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 Echo. Bye!